Hey friends, and welcome back to my channel. For today's video, I'm taking you along for a couple of chores that I'm doing in my kitchen and then in my kitchen nook. Today I'm just putting away dishes, and I also want to wipe down the counters and just kind of reset the kitchen. But then I also wanted to clean off the shelves above my desk in the kitchen nook. I wanted to remove some items from that space, as I recently did a makeover in my kitchen nook, which will be up on my channel on Sunday, and I felt like there just needed to be less stuff on those shelves. So I just take you along as I get these tasks done today. I hope it brings you some motivation. I will say that you will get to see little sneak peeks of my kitchen nook makeover while I'm working in there on the shelves, so keep your eye out for that. In addition to that, today is Thursday, so on my channel that means Thoughtful Thursday, and all that means is that I like to share my thoughts on a topic in the voiceover while I'm sharing some motivational content with you. I did want to tell you that usually for my Thoughtful Thursday videos, I will sit down and write a script, and the reason I do that is so that I'm succinct in what I'm saying, and also so I don't miss any points that I want to make on the topic. And oftentimes I will also share that content over on my blog in written form, but today, it's going to be a little bit more raw, as I'm just going to be sharing my thoughts off the cuff. I will say, when I write my thoughts out, I don't do a lot of editing. It is pretty much stream of consciousness, but sometimes I'll go back and add things, or I will edit a little bit. But for the most part, you are still getting stream of consciousness when I'm sharing these videos with you. But today, I did not sit down and write out my thoughts, and that is primarily because the last few days have been a little bit tough for me, and I'll get into that when I talk about the topic for today. But I just really didn't have the bandwidth to sit down and write out my thoughts and everything. Also, today's video was supposed to be my kitchen nook makeover. That's what I had on my calendar to share with you, but I didn't have the footage edited when I needed to have it edited, and it's quite a lot of footage, and so I decided to just go ahead and film something different for this video, just because, like I mentioned, I just have not had the bandwidth to invest in it. Oh my goodness, y'all, this was such a struggle. I have this top shelf that is wobbly. And so I was trying to figure out how to remedy that. I was turning it around the other direction, thinking that would help. I thought I had the pegs on the correct placement, like that all 4 pegs were in the same location, but I ended up moving down one of the pegs and that did help. But you will definitely see me struggling here with these 2 shelves, and I end up just having to remove everything from that bottom shelf, which I was going to do anyway. But yeah, I was just kind of struggling here. And I did decide to go ahead and leave all of this footage real time, in part because it wasn't a lot of footage to work with anyway, but you can see the struggle more real time. So I don't know if that's encouraging at all. Like, things don't always go like we plan. We sometimes have to wrestle with things, and that's just how life is. But that's actually quite a good segue into what I wanted to share today, just wrestling with things, because what I wanted to talk about today is quietness and the importance of removing input from our lives and allowing for quietness. So over this past weekend, I had a little getaway with my husband. We stayed near Wimberley, Texas, which is a small, quaint town in Texas. And we stayed in these cabins that were even a little bit further out, that was kind of in the middle of nowhere. Each cabin was very private and had its own little area in the woods, which was very nice. And part of kind of the shtick of these cabins is that you unplug, and there was no Wi-Fi available at the cabins, and our cell service was very limited. Like, I couldn't access apps. Like, I couldn't open YouTube or Instagram or apps like that. I think my text messages went through, but honestly, I didn't do a lot of texting. I think we probably could have received a phone call if necessary. I think we had like 1 bar, but my point is I really couldn't use my phone while we were at these cabins. So typically I am a fairly early riser, and I do tend to get up before my husband in general, but especially when we're on vacation or it's a weekend for him. Not that he sleeps in really late, but definitely later than me. I tend to get up like around 6:30 or 7. I did sleep a little bit later on Sunday morning because we went to a concert on Saturday night, and I ended up not getting a lot of sleep that night. So I went to bed late, I guess I should say. So I slept in a little bit, but nevertheless, I still got up before my husband, and so I just had quiet time on both mornings, on Saturday and Sunday morning. So it was interesting. I usually spend some quiet time every morning before I am jumping on apps and all of that. I have shared in different day in the life videos or morning routine videos that typically I do this Bible recap every day. It's reading through the Bible chronologically in 1 year, and I listen to the passage with headphones on while I'm getting ready in the morning, making my coffee and stuff like that. And then after that, I put my phone down and I read the passage in my physical Bible. And then I spend some time praying. That's typically how my morning starts. And so that was nothing unusual. But after I was finished with that, typically I will check my notifications on the social media apps, and I couldn't do that on these mornings that we were at these cabins. And so I was just left with quietness. And while it was quite lovely, it was also a little bit eye-opening for me. What I realized is that while I do have these routines in place where I am spending time with God in the morning, and I do have kind of this set aside quiet space, I realize that maybe I'm not allotting for enough quietness in my life. That even if I'm having positive input, whether that's listening to worship music or listening to the Bible app read to me or watching YouTube videos that are positive content, it's still input. And the constant input can eventually be negative. Like you need space, you need time to process things. So I think I mentioned in last week's video about how in the month of June, it's my month of positivity. I'm really trying to make sure all the input that I'm receiving is positive input. Like I mentioned, whether it's listening to worship music or positive content on YouTube or whatever it might be. But going away to these cabins made me realize the importance of silence and quietness and allowing for space to process and think through things. And it was especially on Sunday morning, I just was feeling overwhelmed, just processing through some things recently that have happened in my life. And I was I got emotional because I realized I hadn't really had time to think through everything and think how I felt about everything. While this was somewhat painful and the quietness was somewhat awkward or difficult for me, it did make me realize the importance of feeling that uncomfortable or that awkwardness so that you can process thoughts or wrestle with some of the things you're dealing with in life. And it's, always good to process with other people and maybe with a good friend, a trusted friend, or even a therapist. But I think there's really value in processing through things on your own. I know for me, I do tend to be an external processor. I like to verbalize things to kind of work through it. And that's one of the reasons why it can be good to chat with a friend, because they can be a bit of a sounding board and you can go back and forth. But I do think there's value in just processing on your own. And I watched this one YouTuber and he's talked about how he goes on these walks where he talks to himself. And I thought that was such a brilliant idea. I need to do that, just being an external processor, being a verbal processor. I think it would be really good for me to make that a regular part of my routines. I've already tried to incorporate walking more. You might remember I did a walking challenge 1 month this year, and I've continued to try to incorporate walking in my daily or at least weekly routines. And so I feel like that might be a good thing that I could do on these walks, is I could just process even out loud. Like he says, he does it out loud. He's talking to himself. So I'm thinking about incorporating that. But I just wanted to share these thoughts with you in case it resonated with anyone. If this does resonate with you, let me know down in the comments. Write the word quietness and let me know your thoughts on my thoughts, because I always enjoy hearing them. But that is all I have to share for today's Thoughtful Thursday. I do hope you were encouraged or inspired in some way. And as always, I appreciate you watching all the way until the end, and I will see you next time. Bye.